Let's discuss the good part, what you can earn for succeeding at the trial of the ancestors. You can tell this gets me excited. You get a reward as you win each round of the tournament, and these rewards are visible when you're selecting which tribe you want to play against. They'll help inform your decision, as some of them are regular rewards and some of them are exclusive new rewards you can only get from the trial of the ancestors. I'm literally tripping over my words to get to the part where I can explain tattoos. Okay. The ancestors reward you with special tattoos that are not applied to your skin, but they're engraved on your soul. This process can transform what your attribute skills on the passive tree do, basically the attribute highway nodes generally. The regular ones can only be applied to basic attribute skills and allow you to convert your tree's attribute highways into something more useful for you. For example, this one converts a small dexterity skill into movement speed. Each tribe has its own exclusive passive tattoos. This tattoo converts a small strength skill into additional fire resistance.
Főleg, hogyha új lesz a Chief. Főleg, hogyha új lesz a Chief elvileg. Micsoda? Spirit of Utula? Honnan tudod, lehet, hogy már lesz Utula build. Az komoly. Amit, hogy mi is tribe.
Katava's Hunger is a unique majestic place that you can earn by defeating the Katava tribe.
Ja, Kitava unikok nagyon durcák eddig. Az összes, ugye?
Imádom, azért racionális, amikor ez egy C-spam.
De az jó hangzik, hogy mindegyiknek lesz saját unikja. Összígyed 5000 font.
This amulet is a unique item you can earn by defeating the Arohongui tribe. It has the powerful effect of causing your flasks to instantly recover life and mana whenever you This could potentially be a powerful panic button, or maybe you want to build on permanently being on low life or mana, so all of your flask usage is instant.
Ez amulettek kretti.
If you manage to win the entire tournament, you'll not only receive the reward for the final match, but Hinokora will also give you a choice
Amit az amulet sloton azért elég jó dolgok vannak.
Next. Sorry, button didn't work. Of 3 additional exclusive items. Let's have a look at some of the things you may be offered. First off, there are 4 unique items that exclusively come from Hinokora for completing the tournament. This belt, for example, lists some powerful properties, both beneficial and detrimental. While you're wearing the belt, the property shifts around every 5 seconds. You never know what's going to happen next. Will you always crit, always evade, never evade? Maybe you're able to find some ways to build around the detrimental effects.
Amit előtte látunk, az a PoE 2, amit most mutatnak, az a PoE 1 új ligája, ami most augusztus 18-án jön.
Jézus,
This one transforms a 30 intelligence notable attribute skill into one that increases the level of all of your intelligence gems. You're only allowed one copy of the specific attribute combination tattoo on a tree.
Jó, értem. Azért
mármint, hogy nyilván jó, de hogy...
Ez a tipikus az, hogyha...
These are small items that sit in your inventory until a condition is met, at which point they are consumed and something happens. In this case, when you reach 25% life, your flasks are all replenished.
Ez csak a kombatereában lehet használni, nem megy
a omen per combat area. You don't have any reason to fill your entire inventory with them. This one creates a portal on death. We made it for me. It won't try to save your life, but it will save you some time. This one grants you Soul Eater when you level up. It's definitely worth carrying around for that occasional massive power boost. Omens are tradable but hard to get, so use them carefully. I shudder to think about how much this one is going to be worth in the presence of those incredibly rare unique weapons from 320. Now note, going off script again here, back in the day, when we had stuff like the Prophecy and so on that let you upgrade to rare forcibly on specific base types, we had to block the good items by putting crap uniques on the, sorry, I meant upgrade to unique. We put crap uniques on that base type so that you couldn't get it every time. Well, we stopped doing that, so a lot of the uniques that were upgraded in 320 are just the only thing on the base type. So items like this let you deterministically get something quite valuable, hence they are quite rare.
Igen, kurva is lesz. Most már nem raknak be szarunikokat, csak 1.200.000 chance-be kerül kicsenszelni.
This is a very special currency item that lets you foresee the result of using another currency item to craft something. This means, for example, you can know whether it's worth exalting your item, because you know exactly what the outcome is.
Ez nagyon durva. Mi a fasz?
Will slot into your crafting pipeline with powerful consequences. The Trial of the Ancestors offers a wide selection of valuable new rewards as you complete matches and tournaments. We really look forward to seeing what strategies you develop for building carefully placed strategies alongside your tribe. So that's the new Challenge League, but Path of Exile expansion is more than just a new league every 3 months. In each update, we also augment Path of Exile's endgame and shift the metagame with new gems and balance changes. This expansion is I'm going to explain the other changes in a medium amount of detail. I'm conscious that we have both new and existing players. For new players, I'm going to try to include some extra content to help make the changes more understandable. You can find out all the detail in the patch notes and other information we'll be posting in the few weeks before release. Let's start with how the Trial of the Ancestors expansion expands Path of Exile's endgame. In December last year, we released an expansion called The Forbidden Sanctum, which introduced the Sanctum Challenge League. This league was a roguelike game set within Path of Exile where you would randomly explore a randomly generated sanctum one room at a time, alongside your regular play. You'd pick which rooms you wanted to explore out of several options, and accumulate beneficial boons and detrimental afflictions that made your run easier and harder, respectively. Not only did Sanctum work really well as a league, but it also had the potential to be added to Path of Exile as part of its core endgame content, alongside systems like mapping, delve, and heist. Well, in this expansion, the Forbidden Sanctum is back.
Endless Sanctum.
I've really been looking forward to this one. We're reintroducing the Sanctum as core content in Path of Exile. You'll initially meet Lavinia, the Sanctum NPC, in Act 10. Sanctums are now tradable items that you can find while playing maps in the endgame. A forbidden tome represents a whole floor of the Sanctum, and its rooms can be played back-to-back, or you can take breaks between them and do something else if you choose. Upon successfully completing that Sanctum floor, the next floor is generated as a tradable item, with all of the state of your Sanctum run built in. This means that the item stores what boons and afflictions you had, what rewards you've locked in, and how much resolve you have left. You can then either play this floor or trade it to someone else if it feels more beneficial. For example, let's say you manage to lock in a really valuable reward. The example here is a Mirror of Calandra, but you'll also notice that... Do I have a laser pointer? It doesn't work on the board. Okay, one resolve. This is an example here where the player has a very good reward locked in, but a massive pile of dangerous afflictions and only one resolve on them.
Massive.
If you don't feel capable of completing the rest of the Sanctum from this point, then it would normally be a write-off, right? If you gave this to me, no way am I getting that mirror. But you can now trade the Sanctum state to someone else who is willing to pay for the chance to earn the mirror.
Hello Ben, I have a big Sanctum for you.
You can look at expected value in economics, right? It's worth some percentage of that mirror, so you trade it for like 5 chaos to someone, they run it and lose their chaos. Your relics, which act as passive bonuses within the Sanctum, are locked in for the run when you start the first floor and can't be changed for the rest of the run. Speaking of relics, they're now tradable and have been rebalanced around this. To those of you wondering, we have decided against bringing back sanctified relics for now. A complete Sanctum run now requires killing the final boss, Lycia, in both her first and second form. She will always drop a unique relic, and these have been reworked and replaced as we rebalanced everything. An important aspect of the new Sanctum balance is that your primary defenses now have some effect on protecting your resolve. Your armor allows you to mitigate resolve loss, and your evasion grants you a chance to avoid resolve loss entirely, a lot like how armor and evasion work. Your energy shield grants you resolve Aegis, which is a mechanic that works similarly to how energy shield behaves for life. In light of the new defensive opportunities and learnings from the original Challenge League, we've rebalanced the difficulty of Sanctum, especially in later floors, and have worked to add more monster and room variety. We've added new boons and afflictions themed around the new defensive mechanics and have rebalanced many of the other ones. Like other optional endgame systems that involve tradable items, players who don't want to play Sanctum can trade their Sanctums to other players in exchange for an item or currency that benefits them more. Successful Sanctum play can generate a lot of rewards. It'll potentially be possible to build characters dedicated to Sanctum running and just farm Sanctums repeatedly in order to profit. Sanctum isn't the only improvement that Trial of the Ancestors brings to Path of Exile's endgame. We're also introducing 16 new Atlas Atlas Keystone passives to the Atlas passive
14 support game is volt.
As a quick summary for new players joining us, the Atlas tree is a system that allows you to customize your endgame experience in Path of Exile. As you complete different maps, you gain skill points that can be allocated in the tree. You could use these points to modify the behavior of different content you encounter in in-game maps to make it more difficult or more rewarding, or to behave entirely differently. The system allows you to double down on the content you enjoy and avoid content you don't. Keystones are really impactful passives that totally change how in-game systems behave. Usually they have an element of give and take and require you to come up with new strategies to take advantage of them. Each of these 16 new Atlas Keystones changes how you might interact with Path of Exile's endgame. Let's have a look at some of them now. We will reveal the rest of them before the release of Trial of the Ancestors in a few weeks. Extreme Archaeology completely changes how you play expedition encounters. Instead of placing a series of regular explosives, you now place one gigantic explosive. Every single chest or monster in the blast radius is affected by every remnant in that radius.
Mit röhög? Elzudtam, hogy ez.
Amúgy ez jó egyébként, egy csomó minden szutálás.
Ezt tudod miért jó? Gyorsítja a gameplayt és egyenesen megéri.
Ez nagyon jó lesz, igen, és az összes mobil múl lesz.
Boosting your stats instead. While possessed, you can touch monsters just like a spirit can, making them stronger and more rewarding. It's kind of getting silly at this point, isn't it? Blight is like a tower defense minigame inside Path of Exile. The Cassia's Pride Keystone makes it so that Blight monsters take significantly less damage from players and significantly more damage from Blight towers.
Jó, hát hogyha középen van az immun, akkor kiszpekeld azt a koldaszalod. Nem tudom, hogy nem csinálod meg ezt.
Beszapoltat, vagy csak elszaladsz a gecibe.
Lucid Dreams makes it so that Val side areas in your maps are no longer corrupted, meaning that you can use currency items to change their mods.
Micsoda.
That's right. When you encounter a Val side area, the Keystone lets you craft it.
Gyerekek olyanokat, annyira jókat tudnak kitalálni amúgy, hogy...
Ez amúgy tényleg szerintem is jó amúgy.
Yeah, so we rebalanced the side area mods, we've improved reward outcomes, and we've made the downside mods a bit more punishing, you know, just to make it interesting if you try to go for the good outcomes. You may also rarely encounter a unique Val side area. Destructive play makes it so that the Maven will summon between 1 and 3 extra random map bosses when you are fighting witnessed map bosses. This keystone is analogous to the Eldritch Altar keystones that make those influences more difficult but more rewarding. There are another 11 new keystones that we'll reveal over the next few weeks. Together, these 16 keystones mean that regardless of how you enjoy your maps, you'll have plenty of new ways to play Path of Exile's endgame in this expansion. And I should note, in the initial draft of the keynote, I painstakingly went through every single keystone. It took like 10 minutes. But we'll put them in the news to save you some time here. In the Trial of the Ancestors expansion, we're shifting Path of Exile's metagame in several ways. The first is by introducing 14 new support gems, which are designed to take existing categories of skills and provide entirely new ways to play them. For full information, check the final gem hovers when we post them in the next few weeks. Let's have a look at a handful of these support gems now. In Path of Exile, war cries usually buff your party but don't directly hurt monsters. The Corrupting Cry support gem turns war cries into damage-dealing skills by making them inflict corrupted blood on monsters affected by the war cry or by your attacks that it exerts.
It's CB cry.
The Returning Projectiles support gem causes projectiles from supported skills to return to you, piercing all targets but dealing a little less damage.
Return projectile.
De ezt kiegyenbe rakták, ez jó.
Nagyon van, akkor ezt már abúzolják is.
Ez a Corrupted Blush-izés elég komolynak hangzott amúgy.
Mi?
The Fresh Meat support gem causes minions created by supported gems to gain adrenaline, critical strike chance, and critical strike damage for a duration after they're first summoned. So you've got to work on a way to keep refreshing your minions. And it makes them a lot more powerful. The Flamewood support gem causes totems to trigger projectile mortars at enemies that hit them. This is particularly synergistic with totems that can taunt enemies, such as Decoy Totem, or one of the new Chieftain Ascendancy skills that I might talk about shortly. The Sacrifice support gem works on spells that you either cast yourself or through totems. These spells now sacrifice a percentage of your current life or the totem's life to gain additional chaos damage based on how much life was sacrificed.
Ooh,
the Frigid Bond support gem affects Link skills and causes a cold mist to come over them. Enemies caught in the beam are chilled and are dealt cold damage over time. This creates a new tool for a cold damage over time.
Valami egyenes lejutunk, és itt jobbra megint van, és végigveseltek, hogy mi az végig
The Locust Mine support gem looks OP and affects attack skills that use bows and wands. Instead of directly using the supported skill, you throw mines in an arc that use that skill for you, targeting your location when you detonate them. In addition to these gems, there are another 7 that we'll be revealing over the next few weeks. In addition to the 14 new support gems, our balance work for the Trial of the Ancestors involved us revamping 2 Ascendancy classes. These are the subclasses that you can specialize in as you play the Exile's campaign. Each main character class has 3 Ascendancy classes available. In the last expansion, Crucible, we overhauled the Pathfinder and Saboteur. This time, it's the Guardian and Chieftain, which are specializations of the Templar and Marauders, respectively. While we were very happy with the theme of the Guardian, it was falling behind the power level and popularity of other Ascendancy classes. Our changes in this expansion have modernized the class and will present you with more relevant build opportunities than before. Brace yourself. Okay.
Vagy mindenki ezzel fog játszani, vagy senki.
Exile 102. Harmony of Purpose can power up parties using Link skills. Time of These now completely cleanses and heals you every 4 seconds. Radiant and Unwavering Crusade both fully embrace the Holy Summoner theme by giving you access to some exciting new types of minions that are exclusive to the Ascendancy class. We have this picture on the announcement page, pathofexile.com/ancestor to scrutinize. Next. While the Guardian's revamp was similar to that of the Pathfinder, the Chieftain has received the Saboteur treatment. To be honest, we were unhappy about many aspects of this Ascendancy class in its old form, and so we have completely redesigned it. You can play it now. It's basically an entirely new Ascendancy class with the same name and art and a new way of approaching its themes. Its new skills let you, among other things, cause enemies to explode, turn off enemies' fire resistance while you're stationary, convert passive skills to apply to fire damage, and have your fire resistances apply to your cold and lightning resistances. I'll just give you a sec more to read. Alright, that's on the site too for you to check out. It's pretty powerful now. To celebrate the release of the Trial of the Ancestors, we'll be hosting a boss kill event. To enter, create a hardcore solo self-found character in the Ancestor League and race to kill all 7 Uber Pinnacle bosses on the same character. Note that unlike the last event we ran, this one is not a ruthless event. We'll post more information about the event and its prizes in the news before release. Best of luck to everyone. For the Ancestor Challenge League, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs, the Shade and Disciple packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value and points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. These packs are only available for the duration of the Ancestor League and will leave the store forever when it ends. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect the character's power or progression in any way, despite how cool they look. The Shade series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. Alright, the sarcophagus back attachment poisons an unspeakable evil that struggles to break free. Nearby monsters send it into a frenzy, and enemy deaths provide it with souls to feast upon. The Stygian Waypoint shackles visitors to your hideout in chains, yourself included. These chains are just cosmetic though, and they break as soon as you move. It would supposedly be a gameplay advantage to be able to imprison people. The Ferryman's armor set is so full of trapped souls that some of them try to escape. Moving while wearing the boots will leave souls in your wake trying to break free. The Infernal Portal opens a gate to the Netherrealm when you approach. This prompted a lot of internal discussion about whether using Hellfire to heat your hideout is actually safe and practical. The demon-bound crafting bench allows you to enslave a malevolent entity to craft items for you. Be warned, it has a sharp tongue and will mock you mercilessly.
You chained me for such a paltry use.
The Nebula character effect causes items you pick up to orbit you in an ethereal cloud of loot.
Ezek hülyék.
Emez is házza a fejét.
Also contain 6 exclusive microtransactions. Look at dog.
De hogy röhöggetsz úgy? Look at
I'm gonna put that in the top pack. The Hero's Landing finisher effect summons a marble statue from the heavens to execute unique monsters you defeat. You decide whether it's the sword or the huge lump of rock that actually kills them. The bell tower map device heralds the opening of a new map with a peal of bells. Start to run out of portals and it reflects your desperate situation.
Hallottad a harangot?
Nem hallod, hogy harang van?
This is fine. The cathedral armor set refracts light through your character, creating beautiful patterns on the ground around it. If your life gets low, it responds in kind. The Observer Diamond Flask summons a tentacled mass that fires its eye lasers at enemies you critically strike while the flask is active. Again, cosmetic. The Currency Orb Charge effect lets you pick from a number of different currency types to replace your charges with, as long as you've used that currency item anytime from today onwards. Some people, we have to store it in the database, right? Some people will show they can be part of the exclusive club of players who have actually used a Mirror of Calandra. This effect also causes your charges to display in town. So the theory is you go use your standard mirror, which we all have, right? The Faithful Hound Pet is a very good doggo, and it knows a few tricks. You can command it to sit, roll over, or play dead. And yes, you can pet the dog.
Nice. Diablo 4.
These new packs are available right now at pathofexile.com/purchase, and purchases like these directly fund the ongoing development of Path of Exile 1 and 2. Meanwhile, the Lithomancer and Enchanter packs leave the store forever at the launch of Trial of the Ancestors, so now's your last chance to purchase them. There's some good stuff in those too. Thanks for your continued support. The fun part. For the last ExileCon, we developed a special card game that encapsulated the full gameplay arc of Path of Exile over the course of the event. Players could defeat monsters, progressively upgrade their items, use currency items to craft their equipment, find and run maps, and eventually defeat pinnacle bosses to earn rewards. It was a whole lot of fun, and we've had so many requests to run it again. So this year, we're proud to bring you the 2023 version of the ExileCon card game. And like all Path of Exile expansions, it even includes a challenge league.
És amúgy meg
In your swag
416
bags, you'll have found a box of ExileCon cards, and then a gentleman outside will have asked to purchase them from you for real money. If you have any cards left, you can use these to challenge GGG staff members who are walking around ExileCon as monsters. They'll be wearing t-shirts showing the monster's stats, which include symbols for their attack and defense. Using the cards in your deck box and those you accumulate by defeating monsters, put together one set of armor, one weapon and shield, or a two-handed weapon, and an amulet and 2 rings. To defeat a monster, the damage on your weapon has to be equal to or larger than the defense of the monster, and the defense on the armor and shield have to be equal to or larger than the attack of the monster. It's that simple. There are some wildcard symbols. It's explained on the rules in the box. Rings and amulets are pretty hard to find, and they can be used for either attack or defense. So to attack a monster, politely approach a staff member wearing the shirt, introduce yourself, and show them the set of equipment you want to use. If your symbols match, then you'll have defeated them, and they'll give you a reward and remove some of the durability from your items.
Ez amúgy poén, akik ott vannak.
Meg jó volt úgy, mert
don't necessarily attack someone
ezt
with who will
csinálták
get
múltkor
damaged
is.
in combat.
Mindenki ilyen seeding exile, mindenki egy boss,
Be careful not to waste your best items on
Múltkor ő volt a
You're
séfer.
not allowed to attack the same monster twice in a row, so you need to explore
gondolom Finti
ExileCon
Charge
to
azt
find
kellett
different
hozzá.
GGG staff members. You can get maps by defeating monsters marked as gods. Take these maps to the map device to run them and progress through the tiers. On the back of the box is a list of quests. As you complete quests, you can visit the crafting bench on the top floor to receive rewards for completing those quests. While you're there, you can also use your currency items to modify your equipment. I mentioned that this year's version of the card game introduced a challenge league. That league is Delve. Accumulate sulfite and bring it to the Delve wall. Sorry for the bad photo, it's hard with lighting. On the middle floor. Each sulfite card you hand in allows you to explore one tile of the Azurite mine. You'll all be working collaboratively throughout the event to delve deep into the mine, fight the monsters that lurk there, and uncover its treasures. And I feel really bad for the poor people that had to hang 3,000 cards on that wall. You may eventually be able to challenge the pinnacle bosses if you manage to get really far in the card game. I'm the Searing Exarch, Jonathan is the Eater of Worlds, and Mark is the Maven. Defeating any of the three of us will reward you with a Mirror of Calandra enamel pin. This pin is exclusively available for winning the card game and won't be sold in the merchandise shop. Each person can only receive a maximum of 2 mirrors, and when they run out, we can't give any more out, so try to win the game early. The reason for 2 is a very typical Path of Exile reason, 1 for you and 1 to trade. All right, it's almost time to go and experience ExileCon 2023. Aside from the card game, we've prepared a full weekend of activities for you. There's a busy roster of talks and interviews on the main stage and the streamer stage. We've posted a schedule at pathofexile.com/ExileCon, so you can see what is happening when and where. The schedule also includes information on meet and greet sessions. Our special guests this year include a roster of many of your favorite streamers, but also some game development industry friends we've met over the last 16 years. We're proud to once again welcome the creators of the Diablo series, David Brevik, Max Schaefer, and Eric Schaefer, as well as Travis Baldry, who you may know from Fate, Torchlight, and his popular fantasy books, or even the books he's narrated. They'll not only have meet and greet sessions, but are also participating in an action RPG roundtable discussion alongside me and Eric tomorrow on the stage. In all of the developer talks and panels, ExileCon attendees will be able to scan a QR code on their phone to submit questions for the speakers to discuss in the panel or on the Q&A section of the talk. The Path of Exile 2 ExileCon demo is a large one, and you may want to play it multiple times this weekend. In each session, you can pick from one of 4 character classes, which start at various points throughout the first 4 acts of Path of Exile 2's campaign. Around half of each act is included in the demo, and your session time is limited to 45 minutes before you have to let someone else have a turn. Remember, as Jonathan said earlier, this demo is hard. Read the signs that explain how your skills combine together. Dodge roll is your new friend. You should also swing by the Path of Exile mobile demo at the chill-out area on the top floor and check out its progress. It's coming along really well, and we'd love to get your feedback on it. We've created heaps of new Path of Exile merchandise, which is available at our merchandise shop on the middle floor. We've made 17 new t-shirts, which include a few from our community t-shirt design competition. We've created a range of 24 enamel pins. You'll find a random one in your swag bag. If you approach me and I'm wearing a pin, feel free to swap for the one you've got if you like. Happy to trade. You can purchase the others in the shop. As mentioned before, there's also the super exclusive Mirror of Calandra pin that is only available to winners of the card game. Maybe you're able to trade for a full set. There are 2 new posters. One is the Atlas passive tree, and the other is the periodic table of currency.
Nice.
In addition to reprinting the incredibly popular Celestial Cat socks, we've also introduced the Chaos Orb socks, better for business meetings. There's also a range of 4 desk pads to keep your play area tidy. You can check them out at the demo zone. We have a limited range of ExileCon 2019 merchandise available in the store as well. Make sure to hit it up early if you want some of this, because stocks of the older items are quite limited. We have plenty of new merchandise for everyone, though, and I think I might have underestimated that. The ExileCon livestream concludes tomorrow with our grand racing finale, where 4 players compete for up to $10,000 and the title of ExileCon 2023 Racing Champion. Afterwards, we're hosting an after-party at 8 p.m. at the venue. If you're watching from home, please note that because there are multiple things going on at the same time here, and we can only stream one of them live, we'll be restreaming 3 of today's talks tomorrow before the event starts. So to be clear, they're occurring here, people can watch them in person, but you can't watch them at that time because we're streaming something else. So we're going to restream those tomorrow in the 3 hours where it's way too early to do it in New Zealand, but you can watch them online from the States and Europe. This makes sure that everyone is fully up to date on all of the talks that have been announced about Path of Exile 2 before the important Q&A in the morning where you get to ask the important questions. If you missed out on attending ExileCon this year, we'll be at Gamescom in Germany in August and PAX West in Seattle in September. At both shows, the Path of Exile 2 booth will have our ExileCon demo available to play and a small team of Grinding Games developers, including me and Jonathan, to chat to, and we hope to see you there. Thanks so much for joining us this weekend at ExileCon 2023. Have a great show, everyone.
Azért ezt hogy jó végignyomta.
Ja, amúgy tényleg.
Ez elején nagyon izgatott volt, azt lehetett érezni. Még mondtam, ez is, meg az is, meg ez is úgy, ez is úgy, az is úgy.
Na, nézem már Kuglieri hát.
Ó, ez úgy fel.
Nugiem, bazd meg.
Welcome back to the second half, the post-stall cast for you. I'm Ziggy D, joined by once again by Mathel, Rise Q2, and Noogie, and we're gonna have a bit of a chat about what we've seen so far, and there is a lot to go over. While we distract you while we wait for the next upcoming segment, which will be interviewing Jonathan about Path of Exile 2. So until then, though, let's have a little bit of a chat about some of the things we've seen. Why don't we kick things off with the separation of Path of Exile 1 and 2 into separate games, and what that means.
Yeah, apparently they didn't own enough of my soul. So, like, instead of just, you know, playing as much as you want of Path of Exile League, a few weeks here or there, you know, maybe half of it, something like that, and then maybe do some other things. Instead, you're pretty much locked in a cycle of playing with both versions now, with new launches continuously, and I'm just going to be doing that basically for the rest of my life. So that's the big shock and twist for me, but other than that, nothing short of what I expected.
Awesome. Rise?
Lengyel Pierce.
I gotta say, I was thinking that that's the right path for Path of Exile. And I mentioned it to a couple people, and they were all going, nah, no, there's no way. They're not doing that. Even developers were like, we're not telling you anything. Turns out, they're doing it. So, like Mathel said, I think there's plenty to be played, and it's going to be for a long time. I think they have a very nice schedule with those last couple of weeks.
Poézni bazdmeg, mert játszod a simát, a sima Poe 1 ligát, másfél hónapig, aztán meg már ott a Poe 2 liga, azt tudod másfél hónapig.
Pretty exciting. I'm not sure, like, you're still getting PoE 1 and 2 at the same time, just in PoE 2 and all upgraded. So it's not we're gonna have this weird split between 1 and 2. You're just getting all in one package with enough content to like just
I think them separating the games the way they are does answer a lot of questions about like how certain PoE 1 things might have changed over to the new system, PoE 2 and things like that. So I kind of expected that this isn't super unexpected, but what was really unexpected for me was the fact that they're keeping up with Path of Exile 1 expansions as well, like this split cycle. Like, I did not expect that in a million years.
I don't think anyone did.
I thought PoE 1 was done, you know, just go Legacy and you could go back and play the old content if you wanted to, but I didn't realize there was going to be new updates to that. That's got a lot of work.
Most így jól belegondolva, nagyon kitalálták ezt, hogy így emiatt így tényleg nem azon, hogy ott a Poe 1-et, hanem így.
And surely Path of Exile 1 only gets bigger and better from here as well, because for the past few years they've been working like largely on Path of Exile 2, and, you know, diverting less of their resources towards the PoE 1 leagues and all that. They've still been good, they've still been big, but like now if they're working on them in tandem, there's probably a large subsection of their team on Path of Exile 1 that maybe came back and kept, you know, doing the new PoE 2 systems on it as well.
I'm super curious what this means for the long term.
De nem választja ketté, Mike, mert nem ugyanakkor lesz. Érted? Legalábbis a szezonális része, az nem fogja fedni egymást teljesen. Sőt, alig. Fogod tudni úgy játszani, hogy játsz Poe 1 ligát, és mit tudom én, mondjuk tegyük föl másfél hónapig, meguntad már, addigra megjön a Poe 2-es liga.
De ezt mondta Mike, hogy annyira más lesz a játék, hogy valaki nem akar ezt játszani.
Jó, de akkor már csak ugyanaz lesz, mint eddig volt, és nem ez baj. Érted? Nem?
And yeah, there's been a lot of talk definitely about some of the trailers that they've shown in the past with the gameplay being more methodical, slower, more tactical.
Ez mit jelent?
And PoE 1, let's be real, it's not exactly like that anymore. So I think there's going to be plenty for each type of player, but it's nice to have that opportunity to be able to have different games, just try something new.
Értem, hogy mit mondasz, de itt más, mert szezonális. Hogyha X-ra vonta van az egyik, és X-ra vonta a másik, akkor nem osztja meg, mert nem tudod játszani a másikat. És hát tudod játszani, csak... Érted? Ez olyan, mint hogy vannak, akik poéznak, meg vannak, akik tarkovoznak, jön a tarkovozó, jön a poe, azt nyomod. És így
and just seeing the new classes doing the new things, like it was
Roadnak sponsor az Exile stream.
It was at some times, I think, a bit slower than I would have liked, but that's just calendar how it is early on, and then especially during demo, you should have noticed that I think pretty much nothing was like supported too much. There was a lot of extra passives unused.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you still want to be able to have your Path of Exile zoom and get through it pretty quick if you really want to. I'm sure we'll get that later on, but yeah, it looked just crisp.
Yeah, I anticipate that
ilyen szempontból én azt mondom, hogy most jobban belegondolva, nagyon jó. Hogy nem lesz az, amit te mondtad ezzel, hogy most akkor melyiket játszom, most meg kell tanulni újra meg kell tanulni a Power 2-t, mert ha akarod, akkor csak jó, hogy megy a Power, mint eddig, és folytatják tovább.
Showing that, I think, does allow for us to see a little bit of the idea of like, okay, so maybe we have the fast encounters, players really crushing stuff really quickly, but then maybe like at endgame, some bosses or certain bosses where you're leveling, have those longer encounters, and this is perfect what to do with that situation.
Eldöntötted, hogy melyik azt csak játszod, azt tovább. Vagy játszod akár mindkettőt. Kész. Szóval az így jobban belegondolva, szerintem zsíros.
Vagy egyikkel se játszok, és abban mozdultam.
And then the other one had like meta skills and like a bit more like combination between those different spells and things like that. So how do you guys feel about that? Did you like prefer one over the other, or?
I think just having the dodge available.
Yeah.
Every class without a
amikor először mondták, akkor azt mondtam, hogy
it didn't have a cooldown, right?
De most jobban belegondolva.
Keep rolling. That's crazy.
Annyira nem várom a Power 2-t, ezt nem hiszitek
el. That is very cool. I think that's much better. Hopefully it's going to be much better than what it is in current Path of Exile with some of the animation cancelling.
Akkor csak játssza a Power 1, amikor jön a liga, aztán jó van.
I think the monk pretty crisp. I think that was looking pretty good. The repositioning, the constant mobility, that's the sort of classes that I enjoy. So we're looking forward to that.
I think the going to the PoE2 and slowing it down a bit, and all the uniqueness of all the different with the weapon swapping and all that, I think you're going to be able to live more in a certain fantasy.
És nem fogja fedni teljesen, sőt, alig fogja fedni egyik a másikat. Tehát, hogy nyilván a Poe-t amúgy is szezonálisan játszod. És ha mindkettőt akarom játszani, akkor tudom mindkettőt játszani. Vagy eldöntöm, hogy
elvideogép.
Kérem már tankolni
Anka. So I think they can really lean into like the uniqueness of every character. And I think that's going to feel real good.
Yeah, and then the weapon swapping as well. They haven't really specified what you can and can't do with that. They were talking a little bit about the different passives for like fire and lightning, but then can you do that with the types of melee weapons and switching that out? Like, that looks like a system that's got a lot of opportunity and probably going to be pretty tricky to develop around.
That's what I figured looking at the melee, the weapon swapping. I thought it's an opportunity to be able to pick up several different weapons while you're playing and actually spec into the, like a couple instead of just going for generic things and hoping that eventually you commit to a weapon. This way you might at least be able to branch out into two different things, actually spec two different things, and then make a full choice later down the line. But yeah, I think it's going to have a big impact on melee as well as the casters.
Yeah, this all kind of like weaves into what you were talking about of things becoming a lot more distinct. Like you can have more distinctive styles between each class, but also distinctive styles within that class where you've got a character that's swapping between two weapon types for melee or different states or different whatever for styles. And that weapon swapping system was nuts. I did not expect that. So, and I thought that they'd be doing something with the skill system, so they kept what they had shown previously with the skill system. We saw the menu where you can drop your skills in and drop your supports in. We saw some very interesting looking meta skills, but then also adding to that and expanding that with this weapon swapping system that actually, like, it looks like it works, right? That's the thing that struck me about is like as a current weapon swapping system. Yeah, occasionally someone uses it.
It works. It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah, like no one really wants to do it. There's like an occasional build that takes advantage of it for the most part, but mostly we're leveling off-handed gems, right? It's not very interesting.
What about the gems, though?
Yeah?
I mean, the fact that they're in the... You can just pick them. You get the uncut, the curve.
Oh, yeah.
That was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That might be ruthless influence, because you can do that. That's by
Én megtaláltam a linket, de az van írva, hogy this roster you are looking for does not exist or has been removed.
Especially since there seems to be even more skills and they're going to keep introducing like they have been every league. Right now they're focusing on support skills, but I would imagine those abilities are also going to come into play eventually, so it's just growing.
Well, some of our predictions were about shortening that time from like finding something cool to using it, and that system being able to get a new gem in the field without going back to town.
Exactly.
Works for that, right? You find a cool new weapon.
Ez a fegyverszwap az úgy működne már, hogy semmit nem kell nyomnod hozzá, semmit nem kell csinálnod hozzá.
Really cool with this thing. You pick up your cut gem that you got in your inventory and cut it up into something that's going to work with that, and then you change your build on the fly. And maybe it's also working alongside and synergizing, but different to your current.
Az már kevesebb gomb, mint amit most használnál.
Just having the icon on the UI, and you can kind of figure out what the different things are and what your style is.
Mókás, köszi szépen, Raider, sziasztok, és jó pihenés, hello.
All you're faced with is a row of different shaped stone, and you don't really know what to do with it. So I think that's really gonna just open up like just your creativity on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
A whole new level of speed running as well.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to go back to town.
Yeah, well, Rise and me doing the race tomorrow, and that'll be kind of like sealing off the PoE1 era of racing somewhat. I'm super interested to see what happens with PoE2, like competitive play in racing. Like there's so much more that people can interact with there as well. I imagine weapon swapping setups being set up on the fly and cut gems being cut in the field.
Oh wow, yeah, I think the skill ceilings just opened up quite a lot.
Going right up.
Yeah, for sure, because that was a big limit for a lot of classes in the past for racing. For instance, Duelist, right? It needs that access to all those different weapons, and wasn't the case, but it will be now.
So much more dynamic and distinctive gameplay there, but we also saw a bunch of new classes. More classes. What? There's already so many classes in this game, and then like with their ascendancies as well, like splitting that into so many more classes. So now, we got a mercenary, a warrior,
Huntress,
Druid, sorceress, and druid.
Druid, there we go.
Azt nyomtam most az előtt, mondom, ezt írja.
And they didn't get rid of it. I thought they were getting rid of some. Like I thought Templar was gone. I thought Templar was being replaced by Monk. But they're all still there. It's like adding another class for each of the hybrids.
But they haven't talked about ascendancies, right?
Well, they did in the previous Exile Con.
I
did touch on it.
Right, but they didn't give us the info on it. No.
Yeah, not yet. I'm guessing in one of the later panels we'll start to touch on some of breaking those down a little bit. But yeah, it seems like their intent is to give much more distinctive
Következő hetekben lesz egy csomó minden, azt mondtam.
If you play a monk, it's going to have a much bigger impact on even your early
game. Augusztus 18-ig mondom, egy héttel előtte vagy ilyesmi.
But also like the sort of skills that you have available and the play style, much more than just an aesthetic.
And even the party play looked a lot more interesting. It seemed like they were really positioning themselves around each other, and worked really well, I thought, with some of the more monk gameplay. The sorcerers being more in the back, more bigger cast times and bigger cooldowns, but then those big nukes, really when I was watching the boss fights, it was kind of, I was going to cheer Neon on, like, do some damage! He wasn't doing anything, and Octavian was just blasting over and over, so having an opportunity to just go for those big hits and make it work is such a cool concept.
I'm really glad they showed the co-op gameplay because, like you said, it looked really good in that boss fight, second boss fight, where one player was like really distracting and stuff like that. It looked much more like engaging than current multiplayer Path of Exile, and hard to put my finger exactly why, but I think one of the things was the new crowd control system they showed off, which is brilliant. It builds up crowd control over time. So like you hit them with things that freeze, it builds the freeze up until you get an actual substantial freeze or stun on a boss. We saw big stuns on those bosses. So instead of just like you build a stun character and you get like lots of little stuns, maybe you make a crazy character and you can stun lock or something, but most of the time the bosses are immune to this stuff or it just doesn't work.
They've hidden freezes, so it's like you've technically frozen them but you haven't, and it's there for the sake of numbers, really.
Yeah, but now you're actually like building up to something, and when it happens, it's significant. That's when you're like, you and your party members
less gameplay.
Yeah, you could see that they were interrupting some of the mechanics. You could also see that when it came to the gameplay, it wasn't as chaotic as usual. One gameplay, they were like stacking up for bigger mechanics and really synergizing well together.
Yeah, we saw.
Szerintem ezeket a izéket, ezt már visszanézem, nem? Character skills, bosses and monsters of Core 2.
Jó van, benne legalább elemzi.
Getting the freezes off, or the spellcaster getting the freezes off, and then synergizing skills across classes as well. There, where someone triggers that big freeze and someone else gets a big damage play off it.
You have all the new boss fights as well for every single zone, built in mind with the fact that we have the ailment system. So you're probably supposed to engage with them differently now as well. It's not just hit them a lot and like move once.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest concerns at the last ExileCon for me, that how do you really build this from the ground up to make it feel like it's not just a continuation of Path of Exile 1 and just another expansion, because GG's just so good at releasing these expansions over and over. You kind of grow accustomed to it, and I know that some other games have been doing that, where they release basically an additional campaign, and it hasn't quite hit the mark, so I think the final decision on, well, possibly...
Nem is Überboss, a boss challenge az nem is Überboss challenge.
Azt mondta.
I think we saw much
hát jó, mert csak itt az a majd, hogy 7 Pineapple bosses.
Oh yeah.
It was like, there wasn't just like a bunch of auto attack spam like you get with current bosses.
Jó, csak az oldalon csak 7 Pineapple bosses
van. Boss battle that we saw there. And they felt tighter, like they were happening.
It
was much less place for the Exiles to maneuver. So those crowd control mechanics have a chance to play a real large role there. But also the dodge roll.
Yes.
I feel like that shapes the combat in some way.
I mean, most of the mechanics looked pretty lethal.
Chieftainnek konkrétan lesz a robbantása, max resist.
When we saw Neon die that first time, you could really notice and just the actual fear that he had for every attack from that second time after that.
5% chance to explode, 500% max life was fire damage.
And you know you could be a little bit away from it. I saw him run right to the end of the back just to make sure he's not getting hit. And almost every single attack that did hit him, if it combos a little bit, he's going to die. And it made for some tense moments.
They really did him dirty. No unwavering stance. He kept getting stunned over and over. I'm like, whoa, they have no mercy for this guy.
They rehearsed that segment like a few dozen times as well, and you can tell that the death wasn't planned. I'm glad we got to see the death.
They actually mentioned that they did about 20 of those runs, and he died on maybe the last of those runs, and then went, oh no, is it going to happen again? So then turns out twice in a row, basically.
Yeah.
So could not have gone worse, but that's what you want to see.
Yeah, started to get in his own head, I think, and was getting a little bit caught out by some of those abilities there. But yeah, that looked pretty brutal, but also quite satisfying. Like what we said, you know, probably you'll be a little faster in terms of actual gameplay with the players once your skills are better supported and things like that. But it's going to be like still fast and lethal gameplay. And I know that's something people will be concerned about. A lot of people see this like skill combos and a lot of these things, and they're like, I don't know if that's the Path of Exile 1, because
det var
fast-paced Path of Exile.
Nearby enemies have no fire resistance against damage over time.
They do have the option
to
go back to PoE. If they really just love everything that PoE 1 had to offer, it's still there.
Yeah.
Nobody can go and say, hey, but it used to be this in the old days. Well, it's right there. You could just go and play it. And a lot of people want that as well. I mean, you see World of Warcraft expanding and expanding over years, but then there's a core style of play that they would really love, and that's why we have, you know, all the the classic games now coming out as well. And that's essentially what, I mean, I think that's pretty clever of GGG that they're coming out and just giving us the classic experience straight away.
Ez a liga cool.
We don't have to demand until time, like, we want classic.
Sanctum, új izé. Atlas.
That's it, we're bringing desync back.
Nagy passzívok.
I'm glad we're not going back to that classic.
A little too classic for everyone's taste.
Unikokról nem is beszélek, ki tudja melyik, lehet, hogy lesz valamik olyan, amiből konkrétan buildet lehet építeni.
But you know what, a lot of people also, like, I heard people like in the crowd being like, tell us, why have you told us this? That was gold. Did anyone?
Gold, the gold was crazy.
Yeah, so they didn't actually touch on it, did they?
No.
There you go.
Spirit, they did.
It was like literally the first thing that comes up because they kill the first monkey and it drops some gold or something.
The whole crowd goes, ooh.
They're like, what?
Well, that might be a spoiler for people at home, but on the cards that we got at ExileCon, the currency orbs, they look different.
Very different.
Oh, really?
Very different.
Yeah.
Well, you've seen currency orbs?
Oh, hell yeah. I have like 2 transmutes.
Are they not just, they're not just more detailed? They actually look...
No. They're like...
very, very different.
The transmute looks like an Exalted Orb almost.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, story-wise, I can kind of justify this idea because we had... PoE 1 was very much like you were in a barter economy because everyone was just in survival mode on Rayclass, right? They're all exiles. They're all just like bartering useful items with each other. That's why the economy was built around that concept. So story-wise, like now, it seems like they're trying to rebuild. They're trying to make us, like, this character seems to be, that we saw some hints of, seems to be making some sort of society or something like that. So that maybe an actual currency system and actual merchants and things like that.
They gave us so little with that. It was really just like a 20-second snippet, and they just switched away.
Yeah, so...
Well, they did soft test the gold thing with the Ruthless League little event,
right.
And I guess it was received well enough because I think that was probably one of my least complaints of that thing. Like with gold, yep, that was actually a pretty cool system.
Yeah.
Where you can go back into town and purchase just a few basic items. So it wasn't like replacing currency altogether, but it was just an addition that gave you some options for vendors and stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, obviously when Path of Exile 1 was first kind of showcased, they came out saying that, you know, we think gold's not a very good system. Here's how we want to do it better. So it'll be interesting to hear soon, maybe when they talk about it, hopefully, why they want to move to this system and how it's going to play in Path of Exile and how they're going to, like, address some of those things maybe people don't like about gold. Keeping gold useful, that sort of thing.
I think that's for sure happening. It's so bizarre that they didn't talk about that. Maybe it's one of those things where Chris is like, he missed a slide. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, there was a lot to talk about, so
yeah,
you could easily skip a few things.
There was a few moments where we were like enjoying the gameplay and we're just like, come on, tell us the things. Give me some off-the-cuff commentary. Come on. We got a few little moments of that. And speaking of that, there was the new mana reservation system. Instead of reserving our mana now, you have a completely separate resource. Spirit, was it?
Yeah.
You build up through getting items, quest
Hát nem tudom, amit izgalmas lesz, az 3-tól lesz, nem? Kb. Akkor karakter skilleket mutatnak.
Spirit from a boss kill.
More reservation right there. But like as a big fan of the Archmage and mana, are you very excited about like being able to use your mana while at the same time being able to have
De várj, ez nem is lesz streamen.
Yeah, but they're probably gonna nerf
it. A Bosses and Monsters of War 2, meg az Item Design Mechanics, nem is lesz streamen. Még lesz 6-tól 7-ig egy developer panel, amiben Veki Path of Exile van, Mechanics and Q&A van.
Yeah, determination's gone. He's not a fan.
Maybe we'll find out in like 10 minutes or so when he interviews Jonathan.
Replay,
the way that they said it on stage is like, people are always out of mana.
Ezeket végül is meg lehet nézni holnap.
Yeah, because that's one of my thing. Definitely, like the feeling of being out of mana and not being able to cast your skills is
it's not just being out of mana.
It's like Exile 2 Q&A, gameplay,
essentially.
Sound design.
So like solving it is one thing, and that's part of the game, right? You have a bunch of problems, you try and solve them, and it feels good to finally solve them. Whereas with mana, largely we're ignoring it. We just like you know, you reserve as much and then just make sure it's not a thing for you. With this, perhaps it'll
gameplay showcase, there's a sound design, the music,
végül is annyira élőben annyira nem hiszem. More significant thing, and it also seems like they're taking, well, they explained it, but they were taking essentially what were archetypes, and they seem to really like putting them on support gems and whatnot. Like for instance, when we had Forbidden Rite, which takes a portion of your HP and then does a lot of damage. That was really popular for a little bit with Totems until it got nerfed. And they seem to have added that on a support gem, so I think that's the right way to go, honestly. It opens up a lot of opportunity, and whenever it does need a buff or a nerf, they can address it as a whole, and
itt ez már úgy csak ez a beszélgetnek még 10 percig, utána meg ilyen.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, we definitely saw like more skills that were like really expensive mana costs, like the meteors, cheap mana costs, and then free, like the ones created by
interjú Kripparia meg
that
Jonathan.
definitely shows that I think there's going to be a lot more interaction with mana as a resource, and I think if they get that right, it's going to feel really good. Mana's hard though, like, a lot of games I think struggle to get it right. They've had a lot of experience now, and I'm very excited to see what they try with the new system. We saw so many things today. Any other standout?
No one. This reward is no longer available. Hát akkor ezt beszoptad, Gergi. Jó van. Hát keresek nektek egy raidet. Aztán majd rá, holnap, vagyis ma. Köszönjük, hogy itt voltatok, aki még ébren van. Jó ét, jó pihenést, jó reggelt, jó ét. Tudom én. Debraci.